Affairs of the House of Commons. The committee is meeting in the context of its study on prevention for veterans, suicide prevention among veterans.
Warning. We will be discussing experiences related to suicide and grief. This may be triggering to viewers with similar experiences. If you feel distress or need help, please advise our clerk. For all witnesses and for Member of Parliament, it is important to recognize that these are difficult discussions. Also for our witnesses, if you do not feel comfortable at any point, please let us know. We can pause our committee for you. I would like to make a few comments for the benefits of the witnesses and members, particularly virtually. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. And for those on Zoom, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. For those on Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you can find a selection. You can select actually the appropriate channel for interpretation, either floor, English or French. And for those in our room, you can use the earpiece and select the desired channel. Je vous rappelle que toutes les observations.
Remind you that all comments by members and witnesses must be directed to the chair. I would now like to welcome our witnesses.
Monsieur Fynes n'est pas encore ici.
Parfait. Donc, nous avons avec nous en
So we have with us as individuals Corporal Christine Gaithier. Welcome and thank you for your service. Ms. Gaithier.
Resilience experts here. Welcome today. Nous commencerons en donner
We will begin by giving you 5 minutes each for your opening remarks, and then we will proceed with a series of questions as I explained to you, and each member will be able to ask you questions. Ms. Gaithier, I would ask you to please begin. You have 5 minutes, please. Thank you. I would like to begin by saying that it's my second time before the committee. I came in December 2023, I think, and I wanted to gain time by not appearing again, but if you want me to absolutely do so, I served for 10 years. I've been a veteran since 1988. I served from 88 to 98. And I would really like to take the time to talk about what's happening in the present. I don't want to continuously go back to the past. I'd like to move forward, and I would like to be given the opportunity to do so. The last time I came, I had to bring 2 suitcases like this. Now I only brought 1. It's not because the situation has improved. It's just because I brought what is still relevant over the past 3 years. For those of you who are aware, you know that it took 5 years after obtaining authorization to have the elevator installed. It's still not finished. It took 5 years. And I still haven't been compensated for the amounts I paid to the contractor, but this represents just the elevator over the past 3 years. The installation, the processing delays are interminable. What we have to do and go through with all the subcontractors that get involved, Blue Cross, LifeMark, and others, and all the stakeholders involved, the external parties who are hired as subcontractors. It's impossible to explain it. The huge burden that this demands to handle this.
So
it's difficult for us as well as for everyone involved, because there are people who make efforts to try to help, but their hands are tied at all levels as well. Last week, we had a multidisciplinary meeting with 7 healthcare people. And today, appearing before you, I've gotten to the point where next week I'll have to make a decision if I want to be treated with ketamine, electric shock therapy, And I said, I have too much resiliency and I would have to be put in an electric chair. That was the conversation I had last week. I'm going to have to come out with answers next week. Otherwise, they'll close my file in the psychiatric sector of St. Anne. I came here and I've been asking for help since the very start. We don't really receive help. Every time you think you say that you're going to come out and help us, and then you put an additional shovel of dirt on top of us and bury us deeper and deeper.
L'accès à l'information, Mr. Richard,
The information, Mr. Richard.
to get the file, my file, I have yet not received anything from it. I have done it with Joel at the time. That's where it stands. I've tried looking at the names of everybody here around the table. Nobody is still there from last times. None of this is happening. I had written a letter to the Minister Jeanette Petitpois when she came in office. I yet never got an answer, and I understand I will not, since she's not representing the ministry anymore. I'm sorry, I have to read from French and English and translate. Je vais show my time somewhere. No, je vais show my time. This is the file of all the my disabilities that I have mentioned last time too, that had not yet been treated since 1998. Some of them, they keep sending back saying we don't have the correct medical term. I'm not the one that gives the medical terms. Okay, it has all been taken back. These are just the one from last year. Again, I'm here. I'm going to just make you a play from the heart because I don't know what to say anymore that I haven't already said. I just want to live and just try to be able to do my daily life activities that I can no longer do. This wait of 5 years for the elevator caused so many injuries that I'm waiting now for 6 surgeries in both upper arms, like the 2 elbows, shoulders, and wrists. And last year, after a year of wait on this, I'm just being told last week that they can't see, they see that the risks and the benefit might not be too good for them because I'm getting older. I'm getting older, and all of you as well, by the minute. And even more so with all of this to have to handle. So I found this at dollar store to help me release some of the pressure laying on the elbow. When I'm saying that I'm trying my darnest to find the minimal equipment needed and support to get through things, so I am inviting you all to come and see firsthand what is the beauty with all of this is you can visualize and see all of it if you want to give yourself the chance to do so. So I'd like to take the time to answer any of the questions. You have my contact. Anytime you want to meet me, I will be there because this matter does not implicate just me. You have the luck to, my spouse is here with me. 30 years together. He's a veteran as well, going through the exact same thing. I'm sorry, I didn't want to be emotional, but I'm exasperated, tired, about to blow up, and I don't know what else to tell you. So I would like to take questions and answer any you would have.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Gaithier. Donc, ce qu'on va faire, c'est...
Thank you, Ms. Gaithier. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with Ms. Sheren.
That's okay with you. Parfait. Merci beaucoup. Mrs.
Fine, thank you very much.
Hi, MPs. I don't know if you know who I am, but hopefully by the end of this, you won't forget. I know it's easy to forget who we are, so let's see if this one sticks. I served my country at the age of 18. I went to war on behalf of you, A war I now know, and so many of us know, was built on lies. I've buried friends under the same flag hanging in this room, and I've watched the same flag burned outside these walls while you all stand silent calling it freedom when we all know it's terrorism. Here's the truth. Canada doesn't count veteran suicides. You never have. If you don't count us, then you don't have to admit that you failed us. Every single day since Afghanistan, another Canadian veteran dies by suicide. Sometimes two, sometimes more, but you wouldn't know that. And the government of Canada still refuses to track it, publish it, or face it. You hide behind one outdated study from 2016, and that is not enough. It's cowardice. We came home to neglect, bureaucracy, and betrayal. And when veterans reach out for help, this government sends investigators, not healers. We're followed, watched, drugged, and not treated. And when that doesn't work, our system offers us death. I helped break the story when Veterans Affairs began offering MAID to this lovely lady right here on my show. You said it stopped. Fun fact, it hasn't. You're still offering MAID, still issuing now NDAs and payouts to shut us up. I know this to be fact because everyone comes to me privately. Over 20 veterans have confirmed been offered MAID, and I have the proof. And I have proof of more. Offering death to the people you sent to war is moral rot, and this government is full of it. It's betrayal of the highest order. And offering MAID to people with PTSD is absolutely insane. Research shows 46% of those with PTSD have suicidal thoughts alone, and 19% attempt suicide without even being offered. It's much easier if you just dangle a carrot now, isn't it? See, you don't really need to offer them a needle, a paralytic, or a drug that fills your lungs as you drown to death in your own fluid. You can just, offer them help. Instead, you threaten our benefits if we speak out. I know this because you send PIs to follow me around. And you threaten me in emails, and your own MP and your own Prime Minister has done it. I know this because I also have it in writing. Your silence with us is just bureaucracy and fear. And your Veterans Affairs Minister, a figurehead with zero credibility, blocks veterans online for telling the truth. I also know this because she called for a photo op with me. And when I said no, she began blocking my posts on social media for me calling her out for her hypocritical continued behavior. Because weak leaders like Jill McKnight breed case managers who think they can get away with anything, including to offer us to die. One of the reasons I say this so confidently is because I just did a press conference this morning with MAID and the expansion you guys are all wanting to roll out. At the same time, which is really fun, Senator Pamela Wallin of Saskatchewan is facilitating a backdoor closed meeting with MPs and senators with Canada's government-funded pro-death cult Dying with Dignity tonight, and you can all join. Lobbying our government to continue to expand death as a solution for the disabled, the homeless, mentally ill, and our veterans. The senator who says she cares about veterans' lives built a political platform off of us, and today she is lobbying in another room to kill us. You don't fix a broken system by euthanizing it, people. And while you fund death and continue to expand in 2027, you deny life-saving treatments. I don't know, psychedelic-assisted therapy, let's take that. A proven, peer-reviewed study and treatment to treat PTSD and depression. Other nations across the globe not only study it, but successfully use it. And Canada continues to bury it in red tape. I know this because I am the only person in Canadian history to legally receive medical psilocybin outside of a clinical trial. Before I was approved, Health Canada offered me electroshock therapy, and I am so sorry they offered that to you, don't you dare. There are other solutions, people. So think about that. This government would rather electrocute somebody who has a traumatic brain injury's brain into absolutely nothing instead of offering me a plant. One of the reasons I'm alive, and only reasons I'm alive, is because of Apex Labs fought through the extensively difficult special access program, not this government. They actually did everything they could to stop me. Every treatment that has helped me has come from outside of Canada, except for Dr. Greg Passy in Vancouver. Paid for by Americans like Heroic Hearts Project, Defenders of Freedom, and private donors, not this government. While you hand out opioids and vending machines acting like you're helping, we're begging for actual solutions you refuse to provide. This is what betrayal looks like. You spend $32 billion a year on Indigenous and veterans programs, yet the money never reaches the people who needs it. It dies in committees like this, paperwork, and photo ops. Meanwhile, $500 million go to foreign wars, while the soldiers who fought for this one can't get basic care. So let's be radically honest here, shall we? This room, this hearing, is theater, and every single one of you know it. Because somewhere in this country that used to look and act, smell, talk, and walk like Canada, a veteran won't make it to the morning. A family will lose their loved ones. A child will grow up without a parent, and the void they will leave will never ever be filled. It won't be because they were weak, not because they didn't try every single minute of their life just to keep breathing. It will be because this country that sent them to war and keeps sending kids to war built on lies refuses to bring them all the way home. And it will be your fault. The blood will be on your hands, not mine this time. And I will tell anybody who asks if they want to join, don't. They will leave you to die and step over your body to hand an immigrant your benefits, the ones you fought your whole career for. Veterans aren't asking for pity. We're demanding accountability. Count every death. Publish the data. Stop offering MAID as a policy. Have we lost our damn minds? Fund the treatments that work. Train actual case managers who speak English and know what we are going through. Stop selling our care to insurance companies like Manulife, because you did that too. You call us heroes when it's convenient, and you call us terrorists when we speak up. That's not leadership, it's shame. We were trained to fight for this country, and now we're forced to fight against it, just to stay alive after serving it. So yes, I live with PTSD, a traumatic brain injury, major depressive disorder, hearing loss, and treatment-resistant depression. But I'm still here. And I will spend the rest of my life exposing this government's failures until no veteran or person in this country sees MAID as a way out ever. And if you ignore us after today, every suicide that follows will belong to you. Because what you refuse to confront, you choose to allow. Fund the real solutions. Stop choosing drugs and death over healing and humanity. We have a saying in the military, we never leave anyone ever behind. It's time this government starts living by that. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you. Merci à vous deux. Again, je vais le dire en français et en anglais, je voudrais vous remercier pour vos services pour le Canada. I want to say thank you to Canada. We will be starting in a minute because our third guest was able to join. So I will suspend for 2 minutes so we can verify do the check with the volume and everything. So you'll excuse us for a minute. We'll do about 2 minutes. Nous allons reprendre la conversation. Et
We are going to resume our conversation, and online we're welcoming Mr. Shaun Fynes.
Colombia by video conference. So, Mr. Fynes, you have 5 minutes if you could start, and then we'll proceed with the questions. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, and my profound apologies. The computer gremlins were smarter than I was today. Okay, I would begin, please, with I would like to offer my sincere thanks, Madam Chair and members, for the work of your committee and for the invitation to appear today as a witness. My testimony arises from the suicide death of our son, Corporal Stuart Langridge, and of his struggle with inadequate medical care related to post-traumatic stress disorder. When I met my late wife, Sheila, Stuart was 6, and as he grew, we developed the true father-son bond. His biological father is deceased. At about 10, Stuart visited a military display at the Pacific National Exhibition. He came home with a Polaroid taken inside an armored vehicle, and he was wearing a helmet and a huge grin. From that moment on, he knew he wanted to be a soldier. He joined Army Cadets at 12, and then at 17 became a reservist with the British Columbia Regiment. On 3 occasions, he volunteered and stood with his rifle as part of the Honor Guard for Remembrance Day. At 20, Stuart transitioned into the regular force and was posted to Edmonton with the Lord Strathcona's horse. He fought wildfires and deployed to Bosnia and Afghanistan. He was featured in an episode of the military documentary series, Truth, Duty, Valor. He had earned a position as a gunner with one of 4 tank crews sent to compete against American troops. In Afghanistan, he served as a recce soldier and spent most of his time outside the wire in the mountains doing overwatch for the troops. He earned a commander's coin and was described as having provided solid service. A model soldier, his last performance appraisal recommended promotion ahead of his peers. Under medical care and on a supposed suicide watch, he hanged himself in a barrack room at CFB Edmonton. Stuart's death was indescribably crushing, especially to a seemingly preventable loss. Excuse me. We had braced for bad news during deployments, but thought he was safely home. I delivered his eulogy on his 29th birthday. A year before, Stuart was training for promotion when he admitted in a survey that he suffered with chest pains. That triggered his immediate return to Edmonton and began treatment by the base medical unit. Stuart was prescribed cocktails of medication, but his condition only worsened. He attempted suicide 5 times. Suffering night terrors and sweats, he began to self-medicate with alcohol and marijuana. It is a remarkable twist of irony that marijuana is now a recognized treatment. Finally, in desperation, Stuart self-admitted at a psychiatric hospital. It was a relief when he took himself for professional help, but we understand now that by so doing, he bypassed base medical, usurping their role. As his 30-day commitment came to an end, Stuart asked to go directly from there into a treatment program, but was instead ordered back to base. A counsellor phoned Sheila and assured her that Stuart was under a watch 24/7 and was being kept safe. He was required to live in the defaulter's room, leave the door open, and report every 2 hours. It was an ad hoc version of defaulter's discipline, and it shamed and humiliated him. Surprisingly, it is documented that those restrictions were in order for Stuart to earn further treatment. When Stuart died, the decision had already been made that he would not be granted that treatment program. We believe that Stuart learned of this and it precipitated his death the next day. His note to family contained an apology that he couldn't take the pain anymore. Access to medical treatment should not have needed to be earned. It was the right of any soldier. A board of inquiry conducted at the base opined that Stuart could not have acquired PTSD patrolling in Afghanistan. The psychologist who had administered Stuart's testing wasn't called as a witness. He had tentatively diagnosed PTSD and recommended a meds review. The doctor's contract then ended, and I could not find any indication in Stuart's medical records that the follow-up was ever done. Testing was also conducted at the psychiatric hospital, and it too had pointed to PTSD. Stuart's care set a very low bar against which to measure efficacy of treatment. Our measure is that our son is dead. At the time, the Canadian Armed Forces publicly denied that suicide was a problem. The culture was typified by the admonition of "suck it up, buttercup," and victims of PTSD were referred to as malingerers, fakers, and losers. After we went public with our concerns, Stuart was posthumously awarded the Sacrifice Medal and his death attributed to his service to Canada. In the years that followed, Sheila and I were held close by the veteran community. At their recommendation, Sheila received the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Medal, and we were both inducted into the Order of St. George. PTSD is a very real injury, as evidenced now through brain scan technology. Informal discipline was no substitute for actual medical care. It is a comfort that since Stuart died, a complete paradigm shift has taken place in the recognition and treatment of PTSD. Our veterans, through the power of their peer network and by your work, have moved the needle. Every veteran has served, but of some we ask too much. Stigma around PTSD was an impediment to treatment for many, and it often precluded or delayed seeking help. The sheer number of victims has, however, brought the problem to the fore and marshaled resources and expertise. One form of stigma remains unaddressed. We differentiate fallen soldiers by physical versus mental injury. If they died overseas, even by suicide, they are honored as fallen soldiers. In contrast, if they brought the war home and died later by suicide, they are discarded. Their names are not to be found on any granite memorials. When Sheila was first asked to lay the Silver Cross Mother's Wreath in Victoria, a public affairs officer told the journalist that she didn't deserve that honor, and they maligned our family. The journalist also reported being admonished that if he didn't stop writing about language, he would never have another interview with the Chief of Defence Staff. It was a surprise to learn that because we had spoken out, the Army was actively conducting a backroom smear campaign. Since Afghanistan, much has been done regarding operational stress injury, but I believe we should take the next step. All our fallen wore the same uniform and took the same risks, and they should be remembered with honor. By osmosis, that two-tier system stigmatizes PTSD victims who die back home in Canada. I realize this concern is out of scope for the committee, but hope that you will shine light on the disparity and open and lead discussion on that topic. The morning after the phone notification that Stuart was dead, I held Sheila as she cried. I told her, some good has to come from this, otherwise Stuart died for nothing. I sincerely hope that our speaking out has helped other victims who followed. I recently read a fact sheet for the Australian Defence Force on the topic of veteran suicide, and their numbers are disturbing too. To paraphrase, every statistic represents a life once lived in service to this nation. They deserve more than remembrance. They deserve a system that works. Thank you very sincerely for your support for our veterans.
Mr. Fynes, I want to say on my behalf, but also a member of Parliament here, and I would say to all Canadians, my profound condolences on your loss, and thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
We will be starting our round.
Thank you.
Member of this committee will have 6 minutes. I would like to invite Mr. Richards for 6 minutes, please.
So, thank you to all three of you. I think it's fair to say that all three of you have told us some things today that probably make everyone here feel uncomfortable. You know, and I don't have to go back over them, but it's for that very reason that we have to pay more attention than ever. You know, the kinds of things we're hearing here today are completely unacceptable, and we have to do something about it. So there's a lot to cover in a short period of time, and I don't even know where to start. But I think what I would like to do is maybe I'll start with you, if I can call you Kelsie. Kelsie, you made some allegations that would be pretty shocking, I think, to most people in this room. They weren't so much to me because I have heard from and of veterans who have been offered MAID in the last couple of years as well. Not to the extent that you have, clearly. You mentioned, I think you said that you've heard from 20, personally you've spoken to or know of 20 veterans who have been offered medical assistance in dying by Veterans Affairs. Did I hear that right?
We have 20 with written proof. We have more who have come forward with audio recordings. We have case managers from Veterans Affairs admitting it to me. We also have other individuals who are too afraid to come forward because Veterans Affairs has threatened their benefits. I know this because they've done it to me, so I believe them. And then we also have other individuals who have been offered NDAs and payouts if they were to take it.
Okay. These are, I mean, I've heard some of these same things. And I mean, it's often the case that people are afraid to speak out because they rely on Veterans Affairs. Even when they can't get all the help they need, there may be something they're receiving, and they're afraid for the loss of that. And I understand that, and that's a problem as well, obviously. Is there anything that you can provide this committee with in terms of something to substantiate some of these things? Obviously, I believe you. But is there something we can do to substantiate those that you could provide this committee that would be helpful for us to be able to take action? Or is it, again, something where people are afraid to be able to have it be public?
People are not just afraid for it to be public. They're afraid for their families, for their careers, and for those that are in the pro-death cult where they come out and speak that they don't want to be killed by MAID. They believe they should have access to proper health care, which every Canadian deserves the right to. So they said that they would speak out only if they went to America, and then they would speak with me if I went to America and interviewed them privately. Understood.
And I mean, it's in line with some of the things we heard from Mr. Fynes as well, where his family was targeted, right? And that's what happens, unfortunately. Before I move to another but related topic, Christine, if I can, obviously with yourself having come out and had the courage to share your experience that you had with having been offered by a couple of different individuals at Veterans Affairs medical assistance and dying when you were actually seeking help and living. I'm sure that because you're publicly known because of that by other veterans. Have you heard from other veterans about them being offered MAID, and would you, I guess, agree with what Kelsie is telling us, that there are many more that are out there?
Unfortunately, my condition, I haven't been out of my house in 5 years.
Understood.
To be frank.
Understood.
And I'm not a person that likes computers, and so I'm not on social. It takes me 4 hours to get out of bed. By the time I've done that, trying to go and just wash myself and get to the food and prepare.
Understood. And I would encourage anyone who hasn't heard your story to go back and review your testimony previously about what you went through and what you're continuing to go through with Veterans Affairs. And that's what I wanted to touch on.
I'm just going to cut you for a second, but I can be proof in front of you that because I have spoken up, don't tell me that I'm not targeted.
Yeah.
How can you explain that it's been 5 years that I asked for a wheelchair, and I might be getting it in the next week? Yeah. My spouse, it's sad that I'm going to say this here today, and hopefully, or maybe we'll have proof of it again. He has the chair I was supposed to get 5 years ago. He got it in 3 months. Can you just even explain that?
That's
how is a person that is he's not full-time in the chair, he needs it for long distances, but he got it in 3 months. How is it possible? So do not claim that we're not targeted and we're not pushed to silence, because I have all the paperwork if you want to take the time to go through.
Understood, and it's sad to hear. It comes to the topic I want to address. There isn't a lot of time, but I want to give each of you the opportunity, and Mr. Fynes as well, if we can. We've heard from many witnesses in this study about sanctuary trauma. Christine, you'd probably be as familiar with anyone with that. Can you just tell us a little bit about the very fact of having to fight with the people who are supposed to be there to help you and what that does to a veteran and their families?
Madame Gaithier, 15 secondes.
J'ai pas compris c'est quoi la question qu'il m'a.
Ms. Gaithier, 15 seconds. I didn't quite follow the question.
And their family when they have to fight with the very organization that's supposed to be there to help them.
The sad thing, Mr. Richard, is that we have the first-hand person. People are there, and they do try to provide the care. My spouse and I, both veterans, we've been holding on to each other and dragging each other down non-stop through all of this. All of these people they're all super exhausted too, to have to redo all the work non-stop. Yeah. We're isolated. I couldn't press more.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Gaithier.
If I can just say, I would like to...
Thank you very much, Mrs. Gaithier.
Mr. Richard, I now pass Mr. Casey for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all of our witnesses for your testimony and for your service. The purpose of this study is to examine suicide among veterans and to try to collect evidence in order to be able to make recommendations to prevent further instances of suicide among veterans. A fair bit of the testimony, or some of the testimony that we heard related to medical assistance in dying, which is not directly an aspect of this study, but some of the things that have been said in the opening statements is indeed extremely serious and extremely troubling. So I'd like to address that first, but I hope that I am going to be able to spend most of my 6 minutes on the actual subject matter of the study. What we know, what has been proven, what has been substantiated, is that there was one employee at Veterans Affairs who acted inappropriately in dealing with clients and client files and dealing with veterans and veterans files with respect to medical assistance in dying. At the time when that came to light, Minister Macaulay was before this committee. He profoundly apologized and he pleaded that anyone else with any information about any case, please bring it forward. It would be fully investigated. I'm here today to repeat that plea. And I can assure you that counseling, medical assistance in dying is not within the mandate of Veterans Affairs. It's not within the mandate of case managers. It's not within the mandate of any of the teams involved. And if there is substantiation for the things that have been said today, Veterans Affairs, we owe it to veterans. We owe it to the employees at Veterans Affairs, and we owe it to the veterans community to bring that forward, to have it investigated, and to have it dealt with. So my plea is that the information that has been referenced here today, we want to investigate it. We want to attempt to substantiate it. If it can be substantiated, please bring that forward so that can be done. The Veterans Affairs policies were updated, and those changes took effect on August 23rd, 2022, directly as a result of the one employee that I referred to. The Veterans Service Team, case managers, Veterans Service agents, Veterans Service team managers do not have the mandate to discuss, provide advice, or suggest to veterans anything related to medical assistance in dying. This service is not within the Veterans Affairs Canada scope of work. When a veteran is seeking advice or help with medical assistance in dying or brings it up in a conversation, Veterans Affairs Canada employees are to refer them back to their treating physician or care practitioner, as this is not within Veterans Affairs Canada's mandated scope of work. We, and I think all Canadians, realize that medical assistance in dying is something that is deeply personal, something that is deeply personal to everyone who is considering that option, to their loved ones, and ultimately with their physician. So I have been afforded 6 minutes. I can use the 6 minutes as I wish. I want it, and that is something that I wanted to have clearly on the record.
Mr. Kelsie, although he is correct, I certainly hope he will give the witnesses an opportunity to respond, because they clearly want to.
Mr. Richards, as I'm chairing this committee, I would ask you to please, as you have your own chance of asking witnesses, please let's stay. Mr. Kelsie has the 6 minutes, just like you sometimes use your 6 minutes and no one has interrupted you. So thank you very much, Mr. Richard. Mr. Kelsie, I would invite you to, you have 1 minute and 20 seconds left.
I find it somewhat ironic after the exchange at the last meeting that Mr. Richards would think it appropriate for any member of the committee to advise any other member as to how they should use their time. You have repeatedly done it every time the minister's been on the stand, Mr. Richards, and we both know that. Yeah.
I'm just wondering why the veterans who are involved in the study aren't given time to answer the state.
Mr. Kelsie, you have 1 minute left.
Thank you. Mr. Fynes, I'd like to start with you. When you talked about first of all, please accept my profound condolences on the loss of your son, and thank you for sharing this. You can feel the pain. You indicated, I think, at the outset that your son committed suicide after a decision was made with respect to access to medical treatment. And then you indicated that it was a problem that access to medical treatment had to be earned. Can you just clarify or explain that, exactly what you were referring to there?
No, I'd be very happy to, and thank you for the condolences. Stuart had designated me to have access to all of his personal information, so I gained access to his military records and to his medical records. Interviews conducted by the military police of his chain of command, and it's in interviews that the decision had already been made that he would not be granted further treatment at a program in Ontario. It was also mentioned, although not directly connected, that the cost would have been $50,000. I don't want to speak. I think it was the RSM. Sorry, I'm going back 17 years ago. But in the interview, he said that Stuart was told that he was on, he and the adjutant, Stuart was on these restrictions in order to show what he was capable of and to earn further treatment. It was unequivocal.
Thank you very much. I am sorry I have to interrupt you. Madame Gaudreau pour 6 minutes.
Merci beaucoup. Mrs. Gaudreau for 6 minutes. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll give you a moment to please put on your earpieces. I'll be speaking in French.
Il y a une personne.
There's one person here who can at least try and to have a bit of hope. And let me come back to these comments. It's true that everything is ephemeral when it comes to elected members because we have elections and so on. I'm a new member of the committee, but my predecessor from my own party had implemented that Luc Dizile. There is continuity as a result. And I know you know this, but I think it's important that we remember this. That is, when we're elected, we want to do good work. We want to leave our mark, but especially, we want to be re-elected. So there's some decisions we have to take. There's action that we need to take. And depending on where we're from, it is obvious that the parliamentary burden we bear takes very often precedence over our own values and runs against our values. And that's a reality. So when we're saying that our democracy has certain weaknesses, well, you are victims of democracy's weakness. That is, where we don't first place the individual for whom we were elected, by whom we were elected. And why is that? Why do they not take center stage? Well, sometimes I wonder why. And in life, when somebody is important to us, whether these be our friends or our children, we have respect for them. And to have respect for somebody means that you deliver care to them and to support them, but it also means that we understand. And the best achievements I've ever made in my life is when I decided to go and see what was taking place. That is, of course, officially I didn't go on site. I did shadowing, but it requires curiosity. It requires that one has the need to try and understand everybody's reality. And alongside this, there are certain demands. You have to give back. You have to face that reality. And you also have to accept that there are cracks that sometimes are amazing. I was speaking about veterans in my own writing, and we were saying that apparently there's some 22 suicides per day. And I thought, just wait a minute. That might have been 10 years ago. today. Do you have those statistics? Do you know how many suicides occur every day?
Because this is something I focused my entire existence on. It's 44 a day. We did a TED talk on it. TED banned it, and Canada doesn't count it. And neither do the UK, and neither do Australia. So the only numbers we have to go off are American numbers because they care enough to even count their suicides. It's a minimum of 22 upward to 44 a day.
Imaginez, là. Là, on est pris.
Well, just imagine that. We have a budget coming up on November 4th, and everybody's focusing on what's going to take place. We want to boost national defense spending, and a majority of people are suffering. But you were promised certain things, and you were told, well, come and serve. Not only are we going to thank you, but we'll support you until the very end. Well, beep, what happens when it's all over?
Qui se passe?
And that's what we're seeing now. You're victims. At a certain point, we said, fine, we've accomplished our task. Now we are going to bring people back to the system. But you know what frustrates me the most? And when I look at this, what I like to see is to have people from Quebec in power. Of course, that's useful for the rest of the Canadian population. What I like to do is to say that we devote so much energy to winning people's support, their sympathies regarding services that are not within our jurisdiction. That is medication, healthcare, all of that. And then we come to this point where technically there should not be any kind of interruption of continuity. Well, my goodness, 5 years have passed. That's incredible. It isn't normal that you have to run after them at 89.5 in Montreal to tell them that here you are, you're alive. And it goes nowhere. So this is a cry from the heart. But please know that we are all coming from a good place. We want to do well, but we're in a system which unfortunately is what it is. And I'm closing on this. We're a victim of powerlessness. And I'll continue after because I would like to hear you speak to what I have just said. And it's terrible. Thank you very much, Ms. Gaudreau. This brings us to our 5-minute rounds of questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm going to give our witnesses an opportunity to respond to Mr. Casey's comments that were made earlier on, because I disagree with them. And I want to make a comment about my colleague from the bloc. She says that you're victims of democracy. I disagree. I think you're victims of lack of respect, and for those that are willing to sacrifice for democracy. So here are my 4 questions, and I'm going to ask them and you can then have your time to answer them. First of all, do you think it's appropriate to be offered MAID?
I think it's one of the most disgusting, despicable things that anybody could offer any human being that's going through anything in their life at any point.
Okay. I was going to ask them all 4 but then I'm okay. Rapid fire. But okay. Do you feel that if people came forward about being offered MAID, like was suggested by Mr. Casey, from the testimonies that I've heard from Mr. Fynes and Ms. Gaithier and yourself, Ms. Sheren, do you feel that you would be safe? Do you feel that you wouldn't be targeted?
This week I had a stalker arrested by the RCMP because I oppose MAID publicly. I don't travel without security. I don't leave my home very often. The RCMP follow me around frequently. When I go to America, I have JTF2 members with me. I have Navy SEALs with me all the time. Why? Because people like Shaun, Kelsie, is it? I have audio recordings. I don't have one. I have multiple different sexes. I know we don't, what is a woman in Canada, but there are multiple men and women offering it. I have case managers who have blown the whistle to me privately. I am one of the most trusted people in North America around this. So forgive me when you tell me that there's been one. I don't believe you, mainly because I have an entire vault and multiple people, including myself, because I've learned this from Candace Owens, all also have those copies as well.
Okay. Ms. Gauthier, this question is going to be related to you, and I'm disappointed. 2023, I remember the comments about the suitcase. Unfortunately, the screenshot here right now isn't that, but it's a carry-on suitcase that's overflowing with files that have not been dealt with. Okay. Now, has your caseworker been dealing with you in person? Because I want to know, when they offered you MAID, did they do it by phone? Did they do it by email? Did they actually sit in front of?
He told me to make a routine call, and I told him, again, I will repeat it, I really can't deal with this anymore. What's going on? Why can it be, why are we not, is it not being resolved? I can't do it anymore. Deal with it. And he said, if you really can't deal with it anymore, you have the right to die. So take it as you want. Did he tell me I'm writing a prescription? No. But to answer your question, if you want paper trail of it, Mr. Casey, when we asked for the documents, I have reported it to the doctors that are treating me at St. Towns. There is one letter in here from the psychiatrist when he writes in that I have spoken to him about that case manager, and his name is in it. The doctor, if he doesn't write the comments of our discussion, it's not me not writing it. I denounced it. I declared it. And then my other doctor taking care of me, they called that back, saying that I did not want him to call me anymore. So if we can put a hand on these documents that we've asked, well, from the date that he had the interdiction to contact me, you're going to have the date when it happened.
Thank you. And I've only got a minute left. So, Ms. Sheren, you said that you have records of people that have come forward. Has it been the same? Has it been emails? Has it been phone calls? Things that people can't trace? And do you think there should be consequences for those that offer MAID that shouldn't be offering MAID?
They should be put in prison for murder. You're counseling suicide. You're offering a carrot to somebody who we now know 46% of is already thinking of killing themselves. I went through a decade and a half of wanting to kill myself because of the 11 different drugs, told I would never work again, I would never be a productive part of society. I was broken, I was damaged, and it would have been easier if I died. So forgive me when the Liberals have a hard time understanding that people come to somebody and actually trust them more than they trust their Veterans Affairs case manager, because you change our case manager every other week. The new guy I have can't even pronounce his name.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sheren. We will now go to Mr. Clark for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you to our witnesses as well for being here today. Thank you for your service, all of you as well. Mr. Fynes, I just wanted to touch on something you talked about earlier when you were being questioned by Mr. Casey around the denial of care that Stuart got, or was denied, I should say, towards the end of his life there. Can you just, was there any explanation ever given as to why that decision was made, or were you left in the dark on that?
Sorry, I think in terms of the broader picture, the Army and the base medical were focusing on the symptoms of Stuart's PTSD, i.e. he was drinking himself to sleep and taking half a pot of coffee next morning to get going again. So they focused on the fact that he had developed a problem with alcohol and with marijuana. Not long before his death, he had failed a drug test. It showed cocaine. But the medical records show that when Stuart was being admitted, he admitted he had tried cocaine 3 times but didn't like it. But I suspect when he was under those restrictions and he couldn't get to alcohol, he couldn't self-medicate, so he may have accessed cocaine, but that was not the underlying issue. The underlying issue was his PTSD, but he was written off as a loser. And my honest opinion, looking back with 17 years of hindsight, they made the decision that Stuart wasn't going to get any further treatment. And I think the restrictions that they placed him under were simply setting him up to fail so as they could then fire him and get rid of him. They had no interest in helping him at that point. I'm sorry, I truly believe that.
Mr. Fynes, and I just, you touched on in your opening statement as well, I think I got this correct. You mentioned, in your view, a paradigm shift that you perhaps had seen, and I wanted to touch on that. As Mr. Casey said earlier, I think all the members of the committee, regardless of party here, are doing this study because we think it's very, very important, and we want to make sure that veterans in our country get the support they need, and that we reduce the incidence of suicide among veterans in this country, which has been constant for 50 years, and that's unacceptable to us as a committee, and that's why we're doing this study, among other things. So, Mr. Fynes, perhaps could you just explain a bit or elaborate on the point you made earlier around what you see as perhaps a paradigm shift and what we should be doing as parliamentarians, as a committee, to make sure that both veterans and their families have access to the support they need, and make sure that we can reduce that incidence, which is the point of this study here.
Sorry, that's a difficult question, and I think everyone in your room knows intuitively or firsthand our system is not perfect. We still fail. We still have human frailty. But to compare to the treatment of victims of PTSD 17 years ago to now, it's absolutely night and day, because back then they just ignored and denied that there was even a problem. So there's much more to be done. Like the Australian said, our veterans, and my personal experience, we've been befriended, we've been supported, we've been helped by the veteran community. Most of them wear their hearts on their sleeves. They are absolutely the finest of people, and they will always have my respect and my love. They just deserve so much more. I'm not familiar enough now with the system to be really into the intricacies of which parts of it need to be changed or enhanced or improved upon. But I would underscore, some years ago, the American military funded research down in the universities in California. One of the findings was that when they did brain scans on victims of PTSD, that typically the brain had shrunk 10% and the hippocampus had atrophied, which controls their impulse control and all that stuff. So, of course, veterans were getting in, or military members were getting into trouble for impulsive behavior. It was part of their injury. It wasn't a discipline issue, and it wasn't going to be cured, or it shouldn't have been addressed as a discipline issue. But like I say, I'm sorry, I completely support what your witnesses are saying and the efforts that they're making, and all of the others who have come forward to help move this needle. And I thank the committee and everyone else who has done anything to support our veteran community. They are absolutely deserving, and it's not a gift to them. It's not something that we throw to them as a charity. They have absolutely earned every medical assistance and every other help possible. I thank you for the question.
Madame Gaudreau, vous avez les derniers 2 minutes et demie pour cette...
Miss Gaudreau, you have the last 2.5 minutes to complete this round. After that, we are going to move on to our next round of witnesses. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to come back to my comments on the system. This system is sick. How can we take action? We can do what we like. Earlier, I mentioned the word powerlessness. We're not insensitive, but we are powerless. Within that structure, it is too broad. It's about priorities that change every day. There is a lack of money, of services, and we always say that we're doing our best to improve, but that is not true. Yes, if we have respect for somebody and we want to help them, we will do what it takes to help that person, to ensure that that person becomes well.
J'aimerais savoir votre opinion.
I'd like to hear your opinion. Yes, that's why we're here. Well, you're right. Ever since they nationalized services and we were contacted by Blue Cross and others, they don't even really do checks. All they do is to send us back to step 1, step 2, etc. It's like being in a turning wheel. Nothing is solved, neither at the beginning nor at the end. We're always in a loop. We're at Brookfield, we're in Blue Cross. We just go in circles. I've been a veteran since 1988, and these were regional offices at the time. These were regional officers who met with us, they knew their people and they had the ability to take action, to act. They did want to. The ones today want to act, but they no longer have the authority because everything is outsourced.
Emerging treatments for veterans and first responders 2 years ago. You said you were going to give us funding for psychedelic-assisted research. You said that we had the proof. You said we had the evidence. Give us that. The next step you need to take is stop Manulife. Stop it. Stop it completely across the board. You need to stop giving us case managers that don't speak English. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not kidding. We will not answer the phone to them. They are triggering as hell. You need to stop overprescribing pharmaceutical drugs. Ketamine does not work long-term. I'm going fast because we don't have time. You need to start looking at things like physical fitness, actual community, diet and exercise. Stop doing SSRIs. They are damaging. Fitness is 2 times more effective than an SSRIs. Stop giving us a drug for the morning and at night. Stop telling us we're liars. Stop telling us it's not happening because we can prove it. And stop telling us that we have to stop praying a certain way when we have when we have our Remembrance Day ceremonies. These things in our community matter, but our community is broken. When you tell us we can't say things out loud, we actually have true solutions. You're not hearing us. Don't tell me you don't have the money. You just gave $189 million to Black-owned businesses. You gave $500 million to Ukraine. You gave another $100 million off somewhere else, and you're hiding more taxes through our prime minister. I'm telling you, there's the money. We want to help ourselves. Our own charities do it. My business helps do it and fills the gaps that you have it. We have the solutions. You're tying our hands, putting bricks around our feet, and throwing us in the ocean saying, we don't have the solution. That's lies. That's an excuse. We have the solutions.
Thank you very, very much. J'aimerais remercier tous nos témoins.
I would like to thank all of our witnesses who were with us today. Once again, thank you very much for your service.
Panel. Merci beaucoup.
A quick request, perhaps point of order for the committee. I know we've had a bit of time getting through the first panel into the second panel, so out of respect to the witnesses and the committee as well, I would ask for unanimous consent that we extend the meeting by 15 minutes. So adjourn at I guess that would make it 5:45. Good.
I have unanimous consent. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
So before we introduce our second group of witnesses, for people who are viewing, I would like to provide a trigger warning. We will be discussing experiences related to suicide and grief, and this may be triggering to viewers with similar experiences. For all witnesses and for a member of parliament, it is important to recognize that these are difficult discussions. Also, for our witness, if you do not feel comfortable at any point, please let us know. We can pause our committee for you. I would like to make a few comments in introducing our next witnesses. As individuals, Mr. Kenneth Bennet, warrant officer, retired, welcome. Mr. Brendan Hynes, thank you very much, sir, for being here. Thank you for your service. And from the United Federation of Canadian Veterans, Mrs. Diane Hill-Rose, peer supports advocate. So we will be starting with each of you for 5 minutes. And at the end of the 15 minutes, then we'll open the floor for a member of parliament. And as it was unanimously approved, we will be extending our committee by 15 minutes. I hope you are available. I just want to make sure, because member of parliament can be available, but you are, our witnesses today. So I wanted to make sure you are available to extend by 15 minutes. Thank you very much for that. So Mr. Bennet, for 5 minutes, let's start with you, please.
Okay, so do you want me to do like an introduction of myself? So I spent almost 28 years in the service. I started off in the Army. I did most of my career in the Air Force, but I spent a little bit of time, 30 months attached to ships, taking care of Sea-King helicopters. So I saw a glimpse into all 3 elements of the Canadian Armed Forces. I'm a father of 2, a grandfather of 6, and a great-grandfather of 1. And I was triggered when I read the email requesting for volunteers to come and testify about suicide among veterans and serving members. I was triggered because I'm one, and I never told my story. Not to my psychiatrist after I was diagnosed with PTSD. Not to my family. My wife is my support person. She stayed over in the hall. She doesn't want to hear me speak about this. Yeah, several people that worked with me and under me during my career, far too many have committed suicide or attempted. People that I played sports a lot in my early career, and guys that were fantastic athletes and had families that had seen or experienced too much, had committed suicide. I didn't understand it, and I still don't, even though it was me. I didn't make an attempt, but I knew how I was going to do it. I had considered it, and I'm so grateful for my Indigenous ways that helped heal me, to my support in my community, and I can't say family, although they knew all about my PTSD. They didn't know about the suicide, and I've watched as the people I worked with and that I knew throughout my career have become addicted to different drugs as a solution, which I believe maybe if it took a soldier off fentanyl and put them on marijuana, but a lot of those soldiers were never marijuana users, and now they're addicted, or they have to do it all day long, and so it didn't fix the problem, it dumbed it down. Maybe that's only how I feel personally. It's hard, you know, but I think that we deserve more help and more information as we're serving, as we go through so many of the tragic things that we experience and that we're not prepared for, or the stigma is, well, he's taken out of the game because, or she, because they're a weekend warrior or don't have the heart to continue. There was no understanding among our peers or those that we worked for. I feel that there's a certain prejudice to it all, and I believe that only through conversation can we come to a better solution, so that we may not stop it, but we can slow it down. We can save one, maybe we can save 100, but we got to get outside of this box of throwing money and drugs at the situation, because the numbers are going up, especially in the First Nations or Indigenous communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bennet. Thank you for sharing today. Mr. Hynes, for 5 minutes.
All right, I'll be moving quickly because I got a big mouth and not a lot of time. I'm going to throw some numbers at you. 158 Canadian soldiers killed in Afghanistan. Active service member suicides rates equaled that in 9 years. Of course, we don't know about veteran suicides because there's no reliable numbers in Canada. However, the estimate is 1.5 to 2 times the estimated number of veteran suicides compared to civilian suicides, despite military members having screening, financial stability, employment, medical care, a strong peer group, mental health services, and lower addiction rates than civilians, which are all predisposing factors for mental health crisis and suicide. So don't tell me there's not a crisis. 0, the number of veteran and military hospitals in Canada. Not 1. We got clinics. Good old 10 to 3. That's it. 0 is also the number of brain scans I had from any veteran service provider, despite being released from the military for traumatic brain injury. Thank God for organizations like Project Trauma Support and Concussion Legacy Foundation Canada. But how many members are being treated for PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury? It's not a disorder, it's an injury, but never investigated for TBI. We've been briefing this since 2009. 2 to 3 months was the wait time for VAC settlement in 2006. 1.5 years is the wait time now, despite better technology, more studies, more departments, and more employees. Once is the number of times I presented to the military emergency mental health care because I was suicidal. Incidentally, they were closed, but they had a nice sign requesting that I go home and call a certain number that they had posted. Not bloody useful. 0 is the number of proven supplements and nootropics prescribed to veterans with TBI or PTSD. Not 1. Ironically, 90 is how many grams of weed per month a veteran is eligible for with no questions asked, despite its proven impact on nervous system dysfunction. Psychedelic treatment coupled with counseling proven to be of benefit for those suffering both TBI or PTSD. Good luck. You're on your own. You're better off to be sponsored by an American charity, as some of our SOF members were, and flown to the U.S. 7 is how many agencies veterans have had to wade through for health coverage, rehabilitation, or education. A debacle. It should all be under VAC. Stop shuffling things around under different shells of money. 3 is the number of agencies veterans must deal with regarding their pay. Again, it's not rocket appliances, it should be 1. 64 is the percentage of my pay that I receive. 90 is the percentage of my pay that the government claims I receive. My name is Brendan Hynes. I served our country for 5 years as a reservist, 26 as a full-time member. I was an IED operator and a breacher instructor with both the combat engineers and special operations. My exposure to blast-induced overpressures resulted in my medical release due to traumatic brain injury, though VAC labeled that as CTE, which oddly is impossible to diagnose in the living. Despite a litany of smaller injuries, my brain injury was the worst. It changed my life and tried to steal my life from me. My balance was so bad I had to sit in the shower. I couldn't stand with my eyes closed without falling over. I've had headaches daily for several years and often wake up feeling hungover without consuming a single drop of alcohol. If I push myself too hard or I'm not mindful of my sleep, diet, and life routines, I again become symptomatic. The worst is the effect on my mental health. I spent years stuck in neutral. Little caused emotion in me, and when it did, it was generally frustration or anger. My panic response was heightened. I barely slept, and when I did, it was fitful. I occasionally acted recklessly to see if I could feel something. I rarely could. I was failing at both work and home. I had panic attacks. In 2019, I took my little girl's Christmas shopping. I forced myself through time at a busy mall, until finally escaping to our car on the journey home. All day I'd thought about what I felt I had to do. As I drove home, my girls sang Christmas carols in the back seat. In the front, I had tears streaming down my face. I thought of how I had failed them, how much I'd missed them. I had a plan to end my life, and to do it so there would be no horror for my family. I planned to leave directions with 911 for body recovery. To those of you who have not experienced this, it's lunacy, absolute insanity, and I agree it was. But at that time of pain and panic, it was the only way to stop being hurt and confused. I thought and hoped it would be like a deep sleep. To the members of this committee, I thank you for your time. You've seen a lot of anger, frustration from the veterans. It's warranted. Every goddamn bit of it. We have met, shared, briefed, advocated for brain injury medication, for mental health care, and a streamlined and coherent system. What have you given us? You have applied just bullshit bureaucratic band-aids. Nothing of substance, no improvement, no ease of navigating the system. Your military and veterans face a degree of abandonment that causes more loss of life and more mental health issues than any trauma they ever faced overseas. It's not what we see and do, it's the lack of assistance and recovery. The lack of reliability and a cohesive plan for treatment. We keep trying to apply a rote methodology of injury assessment, emotion, pain, and abandonment. You cannot apply a unit of measure to these things. We require guidelines, and for a refreshing change, some common bloody sense. Maybe some compassion, some facilities, some clear answers, and a clear path. We were sent to fight on your behalf and wound up having to come home and fight with the very people who sent us there in the first place. It's about accountability and responsibility. Get a number that members can call when they are in need, where somebody will actually answer and be able to respond to questions about pay and health care, not one to suggest MAID or to pass off vets to yet another bureaucracy. We cannot end this by only looking at VAC. However, if you, the people who are elected to be servants of your nation, decide to be biased towards action and leadership rather than simply closing the books on yet another long-winded, myopic committee meeting with sunshiny platitudes, then we can start a change. But we've seen enough of that. It's not shocking that we lose so many along the way because few fights are ever won alone. So please, not for me, but for those who come after me, those who served with me, and those who we've lost along the way, for once, become our allies. While I eagerly await your questions, I have some for you. I wonder what the logic has been in the application of things like Manulife and PCVRS to this system, rather than it being coordinated by Veterans Affairs. It's the government that sent us into harm's way. It is their duty to look after those who went. Here am I, send me, was what we said. So please explain to me how we gave a non-competitive contract to the Loblaws family to set up PCVRS to lay over thousands and thousands of more sheets of administrative miasma for veterans to wade through. Thank you. God bless our veterans, our fallen, and their families. I was blessed to be able to stand on the shoulders of heroes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hynes. For 5 minutes, Mrs. Rose.
It's hard to speak after that. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Diane Rose. I'm the Director of Military Sexual Trauma for the United Federation of Canadian Veterans, and I am the founder of Canadian Survivors of MST, a peer support and advocacy group active for more than 15 years. Together, our networks represent the voice of over 8,000 veterans and many more organizations. The Federation stands shoulder to shoulder with all veterans in need. It exists to give voice to those silenced or left behind. Most of what we do is quiet, unseen work, helping veterans to survive another day, but not every veteran does survive another day. We already know the statistics. Women veterans are at higher risk of suicide than male veterans or civilian women. The male veterans are higher risk than civilian men. So instead of offering you more numbers, I'll speak from lived experience. Too often we only learn of another loss when we see a familiar name in the obituaries. Less than a month ago, a veteran was found dead in the woods a short distance from a base where she once worked. She had loved her job until she was raped by a fellow member. The trauma that followed and the way she was treated by the military afterward forced her into taking a medical release. When she left the military, she didn't have stable housing, family supports, or a VAC case manager. A year and a half later, she died alone. She was only 35. I was the one that identified her body. I've heard from government-funded researchers say you can't just walk down the street and find a woman veteran who's experienced homelessness. Yet that's exactly what we do. One of our members saw her sitting outside of the Tim Hortons. Instead of walking by, I stopped and sat down and talked to her and gave her my business card. When the police found her body, that card was still in her pocket. And she didn't die because she was weak. She died because she had been made invisible by a system not built with her in mind. When veterans reach out for help, they're far often told, here's a 1-800 number you can call. But if you're at the end of your rope, you don't need a number that puts you on hold. You need a real human being that says, stay on the line, I am coming. Federation members do that type of work every day as volunteers, driving for hours, using our own money, answering late-night messages from people who don't think they can make it until morning. We don't do it for awards or grants. We do it because we're taught you don't leave people behind. From the front lines, we see too many support programs that are still designed by civilians or senior male officers that assume all veterans in crisis are men. But more and more of us are not men. Women in the junior ranks still routinely face gaslighting, tone-deaf policy when we speak our truth. The institutional silencing makes us invisible, and invisibility kills. Suicide prevention isn't just about mental health. It's about trust, transition, and belonging. Veterans need trauma and violence-informed, gender-responsive care, not more forms, backlogs, and wait lists. The Federation's message to the committee today is simple. We can do better, and we must. Many solutions already exist from your own reports. Invisible No More Experiences of Canadian Women Veterans, tabled on June 12, 2024. We ask government to implement its 42 recommendations, especially those on homeless, MST, and gender-responsive health care. When a veteran dies by suicide, it's not because one system failed, it's because every system has failed. RCMP, D&D, CAF, VAC, and community supports almost share in the responsibility for these failures. One day I hope that VAC will have evolved into a system centered on the veteran, not the bureaucrat. Maybe then we can all stop reading so many obituaries for people who should still be alive with us today. I have several additional recommendations I would be pleased to share during questions. Thank you for listening, and thank you for taking this issue seriously. I've attached the top 10 recommendations very quickly. VAC, to push the list of consequential conditions. Veterans shouldn't have to guess what conditions are linked to their service. Transparency would relieve time, stress, and lives. Ungag and properly fund Women Veterans Advisory Council. Let those women representing us actually talk to us. Trust can't grow in silence. Make transition units mandatory for all releases. Suicide prevention starts before the release, not after the uniform comes off. Train VAC to speak veteran. Military communication can sound blunt or emotional. Don't mistake my trauma for attitude. Require mental health first aid, veteran edition. Not what you're getting from these university students that don't know what they're talking about. Every VAC staff member should know how to respond safely when a veteran says they're not okay. VAC should tell the truth about wait times. Count from the day a veteran applies, not when VAC finishes processing. Honesty builds trust. Add MST to the transition process. Military sexual trauma must be a standard part of every transition review, not an afterthought. Build women veteran health into policy. Women's bodies, pain, and trauma responses are different. Healthcare must reflect that. Create safe women-only recovery programs with qualified staff and national standards. Mixed gender facilities have failed to protect women veterans. Safety must come first. I have a lot to say on that. Launch an independent review about the effectiveness of SMSRC for veterans. As a minimum, government needs to complete Schedule L of the CAF D&D Sexual Misconduct Class Action and act on the recommendations of Invisible No More report. The government agreed to both. Start implementing before more veterans die waiting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rose. We will start our round of questions with 6 minutes. Mr. Richards.
Thank you. It was Miss Rose that mentioned it here, but in the first panel, someone, I think it was Miss Gauthier, said the exact same thing. You know, in the military, when you serve, you leave no one behind. And the implication, of course, in the statement that was made in both cases was that, you know, our government has asked each and every one of you and all of those like you who are veterans in this country to go and serve our country. And you did it willingly. You wanted to do it. You were proud to do it. But then the government didn't keep its part of the bargain. It's not there to serve you when you need it. And that saddens me. And then to hear the kinds of things we're hearing today saddens me even more. So I think I'd like to start perhaps with you, Mr. Hynes, if I can. You mentioned, wait times. In 2006, about 2 to 3 months, and I think you said a year, about 1 to 2 years.
We're easily at 1.5 to 2 years now. I've heard some veterans say they've got ongoing issues beyond that. Part of the difficulty is that as you apply, there's no common sense written into it. For example, if I have had my hip shattered, well, they don't think ahead that I may have lower back issues or knee problems. If I have my lower leg blown off, they don't think, oh, maybe I'll need a different kind of footwear. So it becomes a litany of going through the VAC application process for every follow-on condition that is a result of the original one. So, that in itself adds an incredible burden. When I was told by the doctor that I was being recommended for medical release, I sought the advice of others that had gone through it, and they told me, I said, what am I going to do? And they said, don't worry. Your new full-time job is your medical release. The amount of paperwork, the number of appointments, the number of phone calls, and I have to be very honest with you, sir, it really impacted, especially for me, like I can be an ass when I'm forced to be. I'm bullheaded. One of my psychologists once said that I had a physically unhealthy level of determination, which is great. That's what got me to where I got my career, which I'm very, very proud of. However, it also got me to the point that this system was so painful and so hard on my mental health that I walked away from it for almost a year. I'm not the most connected guy in the world. I do the advocacy that I can. I encourage staying in touch with your fellow veterans.
If I can interrupt you, you told us a story that took a lot of courage to tell us.
Thank you.
How much do you think that what you just described contributed to that?
Too much. Too much. I was lost. Yeah. There's no support. It's here, fill out this paper. Okay, now fill out these other 400 papers. Yeah, we can't help you till you get this appointment. Like I said, I went to the emergency mental health clinic here in Ottawa, which is over an hour from my house, and got there and they were closed for COVID. Yeah. Oh, we didn't close the emergency centers, did we? Were emergency centers at hospitals closed? No, but we closed the emergency mental health center. To me, mental health is part of healthcare. I thought that's what the mantra was. Apparently, I was mistaken.
Yeah. And maybe can I just speak for a minute to, like, obviously you were able to fight through it. You mentioned the spirit within you.
Through a miracle, and through, quite honestly, the support and love of my family. Every couple of weeks with the advocacy that I have, the number of people that I worked with and taught throughout my career, I would say an average of every 10 to 20 days, I hear about another veteran suicide.
Yeah. That's what I was just about to ask you was, do you believe there's people out there And I mean, I've heard stories as well, right? But that are not able to fight through it and never get the help they need, and in some cases end up dead as a result.
100%. And I'll tell you one of the most shocking and horrific parts of this, from one friend of mine from Canadian Special Operations Forces that sadly lost the battle with his demons. You know, they launched this big investigation, and then they say that this guy, handsome, good-looking, smart, crazy fit, great career, amazing family, beautiful kids, all the rest. Oh no, well, his mental health degradation and his eventual suicide had nothing to do with military service. Now, what leg does the family have to stand on to fight that? Yeah. I'll tell you another sad part of this as well, from my own family's experience. When the veteran dies, if there are outstanding Veterans Affairs claims, the spouse wants to see those through, they start back at zero. Because there is no access given to that Veterans Affairs files or their medical files. Confidentiality. Again, it's not hard. I'll throw down the gauntlet right now. You want to pay me $100,000 a year, I'll run VAC. I won't even ask for any performance bonuses.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hynes. Thank you very much. I would like to invite Mrs. Ertl for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. Ms. Hill-Rose, I'm wondering if you could tell me a bit about the supports and therapies that you are using and with veterans, and how I'm new and how that is helping individuals.
None, because they won't approve me.
None?
I've been waiting 14 years for approval, and because I'm an advocate and because I tell the truth, I am one of these people who has been attacked, followed by the little black car. My claims are denied constantly, and to the point where I'm just, I don't even know what to say anymore. And suicide, yeah, I've had half a dozen of those attempts.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that you're dealing with that. Can you tell me then a bit about your organization and the work that you can do?
Every day we're dealing with phone calls. I had a phone call this morning, and it was a woman in British Columbia who hadn't slept at all. British Columbia is removing her opioid pain medication, and she doesn't know what she's going to do. And she was fairly suicidal this morning when I spoke to her. And I was able to contact a bunch of people out west, a couple of people in Ontario. We activate the team. We activate the other advocates, and they are right there, and they are getting it done and making the phone calls and getting boots on the ground at that person's house right now. A lot of times we can have boots on the ground within 2 hours at the person's house, because 911ing them is not an option. If, in my case, I was gang raped by 5 men while I was in the military, do you know what that looks like when uniforms come running towards me? It's not pretty, believe me. But this is what we do, and we help with forms, we talk to people, we advocate. I know Blake there's gotten several emails in the last couple days from Federation members saying, make sure this gets added, because we are passionate about what we do. We actually have one of our women over here who's done extensive research on chemicals on military bases. I'm blessed. I am so grateful to have these sisters who support me every day.
That is fortunate. We women get things done, don't we? No offense to the men. You mentioned that there were over 8,000, you were the voice of over 8,000 veterans, I believe, in the Federation. So are all of those veterans are they working within the organization, or is there a small group that's kind of directing activities? How does the work get done? How do you mobilize these folks?
Most veterans in our group are silent because of the suffering. They can't talk. They don't want to talk. They're afraid to talk. And then you get a message in the middle of the night, hey, have you got a minute? I always have a minute at 3 a.m. Always. And this is when we do our talking and our business. And this is when we're helping. Diane, I've watched you say this for so many years, and I'm finally coming forward because I need help. And it takes a long time. I was at Simver last week on Monday. I didn't pay to get in there, and I got in there just by going up the elevator. Folks, act like you belong. And I went through, and I handed out my business card. About 70 of them. SMSRC was there. Atlas was there. Veterans Affairs was there. They all had their booths. 9 o'clock the next morning, when I checked my email, I had 9 emails. I got your business card. I was raped in the military. I'm finally coming out. I need help. What do I do? I am here for you, sister. I am here. Listen, I am here. Talk to me.
Thank you. I spent the summer visiting all the legions in my riding. I have 14. And I heard a lot about gaps that have been identified in the continuity of care for military families. How do organizations like yours and the Legion and any others best serve veterans or their families when they're facing these kind of crises?
A lot of times it's just us doing the contact. When they contact us and say, we need help, I can get you to a psychologist within 24 hours. We have some excellent psychologists that work with us. They will do free services because they know what we're doing. They know that what they do when they step up out of the box, that they are saving life. They know that. They work with us all the time. We work with service officers across Canada. There are some really good service officers in Canada that are really helping. We go to Vets Canada. Vets Canada helps right off the bat. Deb is always there, God bless her. 3 a.m, Deb, got a homeless one. Let's get her done. These are people who, and Deb's not getting funded. None of us are getting funded. And all these organizations who are getting all the funds, where are you at 3 a.m. when I need help? Your research, don't even go there. You got $250,000 to research how to tie your boots? That's basically like, come on. Come on. It's just, and then when you look at their research, they spoke to 6 veterans. 6. You couldn't find more veterans to talk to do your research? Come and see me. I know lots of veterans that would love to tell you the story. Stop. Just stop.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rose. And just before we continue, I was gently reminded, maybe for our interpretation, just to come a little forward, not too close to the mic, but just a little bit forward. So as the interpretation's happening, it is less difficult for them to hear, so they can translate in français. And on this note, Madame Gaudreau, pour 6 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Madame Gaudreau, you have 6 minutes, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to tell you that I hear you. I acknowledge when you speak that it is justified, the anger that you experience when you appreciate or care about someone, you take care of them. And I think that, Ms. Rose, you are giving a demonstration not only of the esteem you have toward sisters or former sisters, but that you are taking direct action. And I say this, keeping in mind what I did early in my career. I was a worker in suicide prevention and also for all of those who had drug dependency issues or addiction and frontline assistance. People need to be answered, or they need a response right then. They're prepared to reveal whatever it might be. And what I understand, subcontracting, the use of medication, too many psychotropic drugs, is so they're trying to smother people's personality. So I would like to have all your recommendations. Thank you, Ms. Rose. Perhaps Mr. Bennet, if you have a few aspects, maybe a few for crucial actions to change the way things are done during and after your service.
So, from my perspective, this is a human problem. It isn't a First Nations problem. It isn't a woman's problem. It's not a male's problem. It's a human problem. And quite often, the people that have something to say don't get asked to speak, and quite often the people that are speaking don't have time for the response. As far as the methods of helping people, each case is individual, but it seems like the fixes are for the masses. I was at the Center for Trauma in the Atlantic provinces. I spent 7 weeks there. Because I didn't have drug and alcohol issues, those that did stayed 9 weeks. 9 weeks might help take a person in a better direction, but it's not enough for a follow-up. And we did weekly online with different groups, but that's online. That's, to me, I'm not there. It's like a phone line when you're desperate. When I'm desperate, I'm not going to make a phone call. Most people don't. Some do. And maybe it does help some. But I believe for the majority, a phone call to a stranger is the last thing maybe that they want to do. I expressed earlier about drugs. For those that become dependent on marijuana, maybe for those individuals, it is helping save their lives. But eventually, I don't think it's best for the long term. It's not a fix, you know? I mean, the old adage, you can put lipstick on a pig.
I wonder how they interpreted that.
It might look pretty, but it's still a pig.
OK! Woo! Non, je vous remercie beaucoup.
Thank you very much. And we have to laugh a bit in spite of everything, because you have to see some light at the end of the tunnel. And thank you for sharing your story. There's a bit of time left. Mr. Hynes, what do you think about the recommendations of your colleagues?
I think we need to humanize it. And I find it interesting. My friend here used the term boots on the ground. All that the federal government seems to have funded is administrators. Where's the boots on the ground? Where is the bias in favor of action instead of administration? Maybe we have to put aside the paperwork and apply some common sense and some humanity for a change. I think what Kenneth said was brilliant. I agree 100%. And I know that it's very rare for an individual who's got suicidal ideation moving it rapidly towards action. It's very rare for them to present themselves seeking assistance. It's even more rare for them to do it twice. And when we're just administering them and taking the odd phone call, that's exactly what we're asking them to do. I don't understand how we can have, billions of dollars being, for lack of a better term, pissed away left, right, and center, but we can't throw somebody in a car and have them respond to somebody's residence when it's a life or death situation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hynes. I will invite Mr. Ruff for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. So look, I'll just share because I know there's some new faces and maybe not all the witnesses. I'm coming from the same position many of you are, 25 years in the Canadian Armed Forces with the Royal Canadian Regiment as an infantry officer, 2 tours in Bosnia, 2 in Afghanistan, and 1 in Iraq. So I'm not going to thank you for your service. I know you're appreciated, and thank you. I am going to thank you for your advocacy and for speaking truth to power and being here and sharing your stories. With much of the testimony I've heard today, I'm not disappointed or shocked. As some of my colleagues have said, I'm pissed off because it's frustrating that we have not cracked this yet. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. They're all pretty much yes, no, or pretty straightforward. But what I think's been consistent with all the testimony today is 3 things that I think need to be worked upon. And so I'll just ask you to agree or disagree. If you disagree, let me know why. The first question is, it's too bureaucratic. The support within Veterans Affairs Canada is too bureaucratic for veterans. Number 2, we're facing a lack of data or tracking associated with veterans in this country, right across, and that's at all levels of government, I would argue. And finally, we need to have a system that's better tailored when it comes to, specifically with mental health support, that's tailored to veterans. It's not, as much as mental health crosses all spectrums of society, everybody's facing challenges. It's at the same time not specific. So that's sort of the first sort of thing. Do you agree or disagree that those are 3 consistent messages? The second question I want to ask, which kind of in 2 parts, is do you believe that the government of Canada and this country has a sacred obligation to care for veterans and their families throughout their lives by allowing them to maintain a quality of life that is worthy of the sacrifices that they have made for Canada? So, yes, do you agree with that statement? And then secondly, is the government of Canada currently living up to that commitment? And my final question is that we've heard from your testimony here, which has been phenomenal. There's more people in this room that could testify. There is literally thousands of veterans across the country that could testify. Do you think it would be beneficial to, as you said, Mr. Hynes, to humanize the study here, make people understand the impact of suicide and challenges that our veterans face by having more witnesses appear to share their stories? So those are the 3 questions. I'll just go in order. And if you need me to repeat any of them, but Mr. Bennet, so the first one around sort of the observations.
First question, yes, yes, and yes. Second question, no.
So do you believe that the government should and the country does have that obligation, but you don't think the government's doing it currently?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. And the third thing, and
about witnesses.
Well, I think that, sorry, it takes me a while. I have to think about things. But maybe the solution is with us, those that are suffering the most, and watch others suffer. You know, maybe the solution is for us where we were so close to it and lived it ourselves. And we're still here to talk about it, you know? And maybe we know a little bit more of the story of those that were closest to us that did commit suicide, and we spoke to their families, and we knew them, and we knew their heart,
So I think that you're agreeing with what I said there, Mr. Bennet, that we
Oh.
should be having more people sharing this that understand what you've gone through and what others.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
I only got a few, about
Thank you.
45 seconds. Mr. Hynes, your take on it?
I agree with everything that you said across the board, and I think that not only has the government abdicated their responsibility, there's a severe lack of accountability. We've had, 9 Veterans Affairs ministers in the last 6 years? Seems to have no gravitas, no importance to them, and I'll tell you why. It's because the people of Canada haven't made it a hot-button issue. So right now I call on the people of Canada to rise up against these megalomaniac demagogues and tell them what's important. Furthermore, I'll encourage veterans and first responders run for office. We need fewer of these bankers and dilettantes, more people like Mr. Ruff who've gotten their hands dirty and calloused doing the bidding of their government.
Thank you very much. Out of respect, Mrs. Rose, and I apologize because, again, I'm, as I said to you, I have the bad role of this, and I want to make sure everyone gets to ask their question. I'm sure Madame Gaudreau will have question. Mrs. Rose, 15 seconds, 20 seconds to answer the questions of Mr. Ruff.
I agree with these two fine gentlemen right beside me here. And I want you to know that we are right now rewriting Bill, is it C-11 on the justice for the military? We're rewriting it as veterans because you guys don't, whoever's rewritten it doesn't know what they're doing. So we're rewriting it for you. We're getting the job done. And we will present it to you. We will present it to you.
Mr. Casey for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Bennet, I'd like you to tell us a bit about the Eagle staff, your role in it, its significance, and if there's any symbolism that we can take away from that experience that would be relevant either to this study or to the work that we're doing. I'd like you to talk a bit more about that. I'd like to have it on the record, please.
Is this Eagle staff?
Correct. Yes.
Wow, I didn't know you knew about that. So I was one of the creators of that Eagle staff, just one of them, but it represents all Indigenous peoples that serve and the families and communities that they serve from. And it's become a symbol. It's been used many places in the world, not just in the country. I was also one of the original keepers and carriers of that Eagle staff. And it brings a lot of pride, but no different than any other group or any other nationality that has the opportunity that wasn't afforded to us before. I believe that Eagle staff was unveiled in 2000, somewhere around 2000, maybe 99. But yeah, before that, the country wasn't ready for it. The Canadian Forces wasn't ready for it, and since then it's taken on an importance, and a pride, not just within the Indigenous population in the service, but everyone, I believe, and I'm so proud of that. I believe that those type of freedoms and opportunities to show your pride in not just what you've become, but who you are, is so healthy for many peoples everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll cede my time to Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Bennet, for explaining that work that you did. That's much appreciated. One of the things we are into, perhaps meeting 6 or 7, I'm not sure, on this study. One of the things that has stuck with me ever since it was mentioned earlier was that the suicide rate among veterans has essentially been the same for the last 50 years, since 1975. Is what we were told in an earlier. Now, what my question is, obviously the world has changed a lot since that time. Technology, communications, on, and yet this is an issue that persists. So similar to some of the questions that Mr. Ruff may have asked, if there is one thing, and I know it's hard to go down to one thing, if there's one thing that you would leave with us as committee members as we start to think about putting this report together and recommendations to go to government, what would be the one thing you would want to leave us with from your testimony today that we can put into practice to turn the tide on that issue and start to move it in the right direction? So if I could, perhaps Mr. Bennet, then Mr. Hynes, then Ms. Rose. Thank you.
One thing is really, really hard when things are just in my mind. You know, there's probably 10 right now. Yeah. But maybe one that I could, that might be a greater catch would be bring back veterans hospitals. I've been retired for 14 and a half years next month, and I still can't get a family doctor.
Previous meetings. Yeah.
But if there was veterans hospitals, it would take care of a lot of the homeless. It would take care of a lot of the people that are having mental issues and PTSD, physical issues, which normally you'll find goes hand in hand, the mental and the physical.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Hynes?
I'll echo everything that Mr. Bennet said, and I'll remind him of a word that he used earlier, was applying some humanity to it. And I feel that with his suggestion of opening up veterans clinics or veterans hospitals, and even if we need to work with private providers as well, that's great. Whatever needs to do to get the job done, but I think that taking his suggestion would put some humanity back in the system.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Ms. Rose?
I fully agree. Believe us. Believe us. Quit treating us like liars. We need a place to go that's safe. We can't go to these rehab centers where we're going to be raped again. I have 4 women on my lines who were raped within the past year at a rehab center. We need a safe place to go where we're listened to, where we're believed. My brother's here.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Madame Gaudreau, 2 minutes et demie.
MP Gaudreau, you have 2.5 minutes, and that'll be the end. After that, we've stretched it a little longer. I hope that that's okay with everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Rose, I'm really moved by everything that can happen to women when it comes to sexual assault. And I have a question because we're looking for data too. Are you aware of the stigma and the issues of assault for the LGBTQ2S plus community? And could you please speak to me briefly about that?
We can't come up with real numbers and real statistics. When somebody calls me at 3 o'clock in the morning at CFB Petawawa and says a woman just got raped in the field, help, and they're not going to the chain of command and they're not going to the medical system or anywhere else, they call me. I got this call, and I had to drive this woman all the way to Ottawa to the Royal to get help. So that's, and the word is, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. And they say, I don't want to go through what you went through. And I tell them, don't report. It is much, it was, if I hear this all the time, if I had just been raped, I would have been fine. But it was everything that came after that. It was the systematic stuff that we had to put up with that caused the issues. Sanctuary trauma, moral trauma. It's just, when I keep saying stop doing this, I don't know. I know women who were kicked out of the military because they played baseball. You must be a lesbian and we will rape you straight. I hear this all the time. I hear it today. 20 years ago, I wasn't okay with it, but you know, but today? Why am I still hearing this today?
Merci beaucoup. J'aimerais
Thank you very much. I would like to thank our witnesses for your testimony. Thank you. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 30th. We will resume our study on prevention of suicide among veterans. On that, is it the pleasure of the committee to adjourn the meeting?